As a thrifty watch collector, I love to browse Aliexpress for a good deal. Recently, I was looking for a bracelet to replace the leather band on my Belova watch. Two bracelets piqued my interest. This one, which was $4, but after the $3 off coupon came to a single dollar. And then this one, which after coupons and taxes came to right about 10 bucks. I had nothing to lose for such a cheap price, so I decided to order them both. And now that I've put my hands on them, I'm ready to give a comparison to see if the $10 one is 10 times better than the dollar bracelet. Let's get right into it. Alright, so you can see here on the left the dollar bracelet and the $10 bracelet on the right. The first thing I want to talk about is the weight, because when I picked up this dollar bracelet, it felt extremely lightweight, and I do not say that in a good way at all. It makes it feel really cheap. You can see here that this one weighs 44 grams, which is nothing for a bracelet. For instance, you can see that the $10 bracelet came in at 69 grams. Just to give a bit of perspective, my Orient Mako 2's bracelet here weighs 73 grams, so in the same ballpark as the $10 bracelet. But the dollar bracelet is definitely way too light, and it makes it feel extremely cheap. This leads me to my next point, because the reason why this one is so light is because it has folded links all over. It's easy to tell when you look from the side here because you can see clearly the folds. And it's even easier to see when you look beneath the bracelet because the center links are also folded, which is never a good thing. I will get into it later on to explain a few inconveniences that come with folded links. But for now, just know that this is a really bad thing, and it did give away that this is a cheaper bracelet. For instance, the $10 bracelet here has solid end links all over. Solid links all over, included the end links. Compared to this dollar bracelet, you can see that the end link is a small tube that feels like I could easily crush it with my fingers. One of the first complaints that usually come with folded links bracelet is how rattly they are. And this dollar bracelet is no exception to the rule. You can see that it is very rattly. Honestly, when I first picked this one up, I asked myself, is this a bracelet or is it a freaking musical instrument? So not only will it look cheap, feel cheap, but it will also sound cheap. Conversely, this $10 bracelet is also a bit rattly, but you can tell that it's definitely way less loud than this dollar bracelet. Can tell the difference easily, but there's still a bit of rattle too, which is expected when you don't have custom end links. It will always be rattly more than a bracelet with custom end links. Now I want to talk about the clasp a bit because it's a pretty important part of a bracelet. This dollar bracelet here has a push button deployant clasp. And you can certainly tell that this is a pressed clasp because it is literally paper thin. Honestly, it feels like I could bend it with my willpower. And this is not a good thing. It's once again a giveaway that this is a very cheap bracelet. And I just want to take a moment to talk about stamped clasps because I see a lot of hate for them on the internet. But I just want to show you guys that not all stamped clasps are created equal. For instance, you got this clasp here on the dollar bracelet, which is extremely cheap and thin. Feels like you could bend it easily. Then Exhibit B is my Invicta 8928 OB, which also has a pretty cheap bracelet with a stamped clasp. But you can still tell that it is a bit higher in quality than the dollar bracelet, but there's still a lot of room for improvement. And my Exhibit C is the Orient Mako 2's bracelet, which is also a stem clasp but feels much higher in quality. You can definitely tell that it is a bit thicker, it has a nicer finish, and this one doesn't feel at all like I could bend it with my hand. So I just want to take a minute out to talk about these stamped clasps. Now we can get back to the video and look at the clasp on this $10 bracelet. which is what you call a butterfly clasp. It's very unique. This is the first time I've had a bracelet with this kind of clasp on, and I like it a lot. You can tell that this one has been, don't know if I can get the focus. Okay, this one has been milled instead of stamped, so it's much thicker, feels much sturdier, and you can see that you get a polished finish. The push button works very well, as you can see. I've never had a problem with it, and it feels pretty secure also. I would be comfortable wearing a $300–400 watch with this bracelet because you can tell that the quality of the material is pretty good, and I have absolutely no fear that it would break on me, which is not something I can say for this dollar bracelet for certain. Now, you probably know what I'm going to say about the finish and alignment of this dollar bracelet. Obviously, it is very, very poor. For instance, you can tell that the brushing here is very coarse. The edges are sharp and very square. They're not smooth at all. But the worst thing about this bracelet is undoubtedly the alignment. For instance, this clasp here needs to be perfectly aligned or else it won't close at all. You can see that no matter how hard I press, it will not close unless the hole is perfectly aligned, which is a bad sign. But then there are other misalignments everywhere, like let's say this junction here between the bracelet and the clasp. You can see that it moves around quite a bit, lots of play. This also goes for the links themselves. They can also be bent out of shape, which is never a good thing. And even this push button here, you can see that I can wiggle it around. It's not tight at all. Conversely, this $10 bracelet is pretty well finished. I chose the brushed finish for this one. They also sold it with a polished or a mix of polish and brushing finish. I like this one because, well, first you can see that it is very uniform all over, and then it is quite a reflective finish for a brushed bracelet, which means that it doesn't clash too much with the polished case of my Bulova watch. This is a good thing because it means that you will not have to perfectly match the finish of the bracelet with your case, because it will look good nonetheless. The comfort and wearability, well, I will be 100% honest with you guys. I didn't even bother trying on this dollar bracelet because I know for a fact that it will be a hair puller with all these folded parts here. It will certainly pull out a ton of hair. This one, the $10 bracelet, I did try it on for a couple of days with my Bulova, and I really liked the experience. This is the type of bracelet that you can wear all day and forget that you even had a watch on. To conclude, I'm now going to give the pros and cons of each of these bracelets. We'll start by the easiest one, which is the dollar bracelet. It has one pro, and it is that you can do this. And the con is very simple. It's that it exists, which it shouldn't. In my opinion, there's no room on the market for such a cheap bracelet. Conversely, this one has a few pros. The $10 bracelet, well, number one, it is very comfortable and lightweight. As I said, you can wear it all day and even forget that you've put it on. Number two, you get a great milled butterfly clasp, which is pretty unique, feels good, and makes the bracelet look a bit different than your average bracelet, which I like a lot. And then it also has solid links all over, which just makes it feel a bit more sturdy and durable as a bracelet. The cons, well, number one, you got no custom end links, so you will have a pretty big gap between the end of the bracelet and the beginning of your watch's case, which I know is a big deal breaker to some of you guys. Number two, it can be a bit rattly for the same reason. When you have no custom end link, there's just more space for it to move, and it might be a bit rattly, but nowhere near as bad as the dollar bracelet. And lastly, you have no micro adjustments with this one, which can be a bit of a bummer. For me, it wasn't a problem because it fitted pretty well, but I always like to see a few micro adjustments when possible on a bracelet. That's it for today's video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments below if you've had an experience with a cheaper, let's say $10 or less bracelet from AliExpress. Did you end up liking it, or did you simply throw it in the garbage like this one? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys around next time.